And welcome, everybody, to another edition of our Friday questions and answers, which you provide the questions, we provide the answers. At least that's the way it's supposed to work. And we're very happy to have you here. Pam Case, our senior producer for The Huckabee Show, which airs every weekend on TBN as well as online. We'd love for you to watch it on cable or satellite or however you can get it. But you can always watch it on Facebook or at Huckabee.tv or at TBN.tv. There's really no excuse for you ever missing the show. Anyway, Pam is our senior producer. She's got a list of questions. She's also monitoring what you're sending in. So we want you to send your questions in the chat, or better yet, you can send a super chat, which is always better than a regular chat. I mean, got to be, right?
Exactly right. So they can toss $1 or $2 up there to kind of bring them to the top. We don't get the money, but I wish we did, but we don't. And a reminder that this is a great way for all of the folks out there to have direct access to the governor for the next little bit. So, and you haven't seen the questions, so you don't know what I have over here.
No, I never get to see the questions. By the way, we're going to, as we're getting some questions in, we also have moderators who are watching the chat. They'll be able to make sure that we get the questions funneled to us. And we want you to subscribe. And the reason for that is that way you will be notified if you hit the notification bell when we have things like this. Be sure to leave us your comments, the good, the bad, the ugly. Not that there would be any bad or ugly, but if you feel like there are, be sure to do that. Hit the like button and the share button. We're going to play just a little piece of video while we're waiting on some questions.
Okay.
This was one of those after the press conference that Joe Biden had when he was in Europe for the G7 conference. And he made a comment that is stunning about the rioters at the Capitol on January 6th. Let's take a look. We're going to react to that.
It's one thing for literally criminals to break through cordon, go into the Capitol, kill a police officer, and be held unaccountable. And it is for people objecting and marching on the Capitol and saying, you are not allowing me to speak freely. You are not allowing me to do A, B, C, or D.
The bizarre thing about that, Pam, was that he made the comment that the rioters broke through the barriers and killed a police officer. You'd think that the President of the United States would know there was no police officer killed at the riot. There was this thought that there was originally. Brian Sticknick, who supposedly was killed, turns out he died of a stroke. It had nothing to do with what happened on January the 6th. That's what the autopsy showed. Let's go to that phrase that left loves, follow the science. Well, the science was an autopsy, and the science said he was not murdered at the Capitol, and that what happened at the Capitol had nothing to do with his death. It was a stroke. It happened the day after. And the only person who was killed at the Capitol was a Trump supporter, an unarmed Air Force veteran named Ashley Babbitt. She was the only fatality that day, and she was killed by a Capitol police officer, who, by the way, has still never been identified. A lot of questions about who did it, why they killed her. Was there any discipline regarding that? The first words we had were there wasn't, that it was considered justified. Don't know exactly how that's justified, but that's a whole different story. Anyway, we were going to be looking forward to your questions. And before we get to one, I've got to play this little clip. This week on The Late Show, Stephen Colbert, his guest was Jon Stewart. Now, a little bit of background. Back before Jon Stewart closed out his show on the Comedy Central, there was only one person in a political realm, one political person who was on his show more than me, John McCain. So I was the second most often guest on Jon Stewart's show. So I was on his show a lot. Had a great relationship with him. He was an honest liberal. Always liked him because, you know, he would make fun. He would have a good time. But he also was a person who had enough intellectual curiosity that when his own side did something that was just absurd, he'd call him out on it. We don't have that anymore. And John was legitimately funny and very, very thoughtful. Watch this clip. You can tell Stephen Colbert is not comfortable, but more importantly, listen as Jon Stewart takes on the science.
I honestly mean this. I think we owe a great debt of gratitude to science. Science has, in many ways, helped ease the suffering of this pandemic, which was more than likely caused by science.
Said in a way that only Jon Stewart could probably get away with. Science has helped comfort all of those who have been really devastated by this disease, which was probably caused by science. He was challenging this notion that this was the result of bat soup somewhere, or a couple of animals getting together, and made it very clear that what has been pretty evident for a long time, that this came out of the Wuhan lab, was in fact the origin of the coronavirus that shut the world down. But the reason the scientific community didn't want to admit that, first of all, because Donald Trump suggested it about a year ago, but more importantly, because it really does implicate the scientific community as having been the instigator of what's called gain of function research, where they take a dangerous virus and they add to it. Now, the concept is, let's see if that makes it even more potent, then we'll know how to deal with it. But if it leaks, which this is what apparently has happened from best we can figure, we now all know that 600,000 Americans are dead, millions across the world, and the economy of the world was shut down, and chances are you were affected by it. And shouldn't somebody have to answer for that? You would think so. Okay, let's see if we got some questions coming in.
All right, ready to dig in. We have a lot of folks from literally from here, by the way, to Hong Kong watching us today. So a couple of shout outs. Marianne from Oregon. We've got Dean Tate from California. We have Mark Inglewood, Norman Mack from Inglewood, Colorado. Shirley Roberts from Chattanooga. So those are just a few. And a big thank you to Rick Kennison for a super chat. So he's moved up to the top of the line. So thank you very much. Major Mike Jarvis, Governor. Recently, you said the mission of the armed forces is to break things and kill people. Okay. As a retired Army officer, I'd like to clarify the Army's overarching mission is to seize and hold terrain. The Navy, keep sea lanes open. Air Force, secure and keep air superiority. And other services have similar objectives, but the method is, as you described, break things and kill the enemy being too broad a term. Love everything I've seen or heard from America's governor.
I would never argue with the major, so I appreciate the perspective. And obviously, it was an oversimplification. My point was that the purpose of the military is to do things that are awkward and uncomfortable for the average citizen. It's not the Peace Corps, for heaven's sakes. People are armed. People have to do things that require weaponry. And so that was my point. I do get it. And I think sometimes the real tragedy, we train people to be warriors, and then we send them and we tell them, build a school, open a market, and, go door to door and pass out toys. Wonderful things. And thankfully, we have a terrific group of military men and women who are not only capable of doing that, but very willing to, because they got great hearts and they're good Americans. But it's in so many ways a misuse of our military. And that was my point. But Major, thank you, sir. All I can say is God bless you and all of those who serve like you.
Thank you so much. And so many who are starting to write in. Sarah McLaughlin is saying, what do you think about states protecting the border versus the federal government doing their job? Well,
the states are doing it because the federal government won't. I mean, there's no reason in the world that the states ought to be doing this. This is a federal function, and it's even constitutionally a federal function. But the states are being truly affected. And by the way, let me just point out, it's not just border states. They have the immediate impact, Texas, Arizona, California. But all of the states are affected. When you take 180,000 illegals and pour them into the country in 1 month, as we are seeing, and a lot of those are children, well, where are they going to go? They're not all going to stay in McAllen, Texas. They're not going to stay in El Paso or Del Rio. They're going all over the country. And in fact, the Biden administration is putting them on airplanes and sending them to Tennessee, to North Carolina. They're sending them all over the country. And when people come in, not just the immigrants who are coming in looking for a better life, but when they come in with the support of the drug cartels, they're coming in with deadly chemicals that are going to kill people who live in Ohio, who live in Michigan, who live in Portland, Maine, who live all over the country. So that's why protecting the border is a national interest. And I just say governors shouldn't have to be doing this, but I sure am glad that some of them are. So God bless Greg Abbott down in Texas, Ron DeSantis in Florida, and others, some of whom are not border governors, but they're sending people to help Governor Abbott in Texas, who says he'll build his own wall down there because obviously it's having a great impact on Texas. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave your comments as well, and like what you see and share it with others.
Another super chat, John D. has written us, and he just made a statement with an exclamation point, by the way, Biden must go. That's it.
Well, some of us thought that before the election would have been the appropriate time to do it. But it's very evident, I think, watching that he's just not up to the task. I'm not sure if he knows where he is a lot of the time. And I'm not trying to be unkind about this. But in fact, I think we have this. I believe we do. Do we have the clip of Joe Biden when he is trying to talk about Putin? Yeah, I believe it's clip number 3. And he absolutely loses himself for 8 solid seconds. Let's see if we can pull that up.
And if Ronald Reagan said trust but verify, what do you say to Vladimir Putin?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. They actually, well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is, I believe he has in the past essentially acknowledged that he was, there are certain things that he would do or did do.
Pam, the first time I heard that, I thought the audio had gone out on my television. I thought,
exactly my response.
Who hit the mute button here? What's going on? I realized he just completely lost his train of thought. And the rest of it was a word salad without dressing. It was just disturbing trying to see what he was saying because he was off his script. And it was very revealing, I thought. And you know, look, jet lag can account for some things. That ain't jet lag. That's just not having a good handle on what's coming. And he keeps talking about that he's going to get in trouble with the staff. And, well, you know, I don't know if they want me to do this. And I keep wanting to know, who is they?
Yeah.
Who the heck are these people behind the curtain who are telling Joe when he can talk and what he can say? I'm thinking, Joe, don't know if anyone has let you know this, but you are the president of the United States. You don't have to ask anybody's permission if you want to say something. You can say it.
Yeah.
And I don't know who they is. Do we have that clip? I think it's number 3. No, I'm sorry. We do have it. Okay, let's see if we can see this.
I'm going to get in trouble with my staff. Yeah, go ahead, but I pretend that you didn't answer you.
Thank you very much, sir. You have often said repeatedly that America is back.
Yes.
At the same time, you've kept in place some Trump-era steel and aluminum sanctions. And I wanted to ask you, when you're having these conversations with European allies who are very concerned about these sanctions, how do you justify that? And what are your plans?
120 days. Give me a break. Need time.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Once again, it's I don't know if they want me to say this. Tell us who they is, because I don't know.
Well, I've got something he did say. Joe Biden gave Putin a list of 16 high-value targets in the USA and said that these are off limits. What is within limits? Is this not insane? Basically saying, cripple us by hitting these.
I thought that was one of the most bizarre things. Here's what makes that even more bizarre, Pam. It's one thing had that been just an off-the-cuff remark. It was scripted. It was scripted. So that means that his entire communication staff had all sat down and compiled the list of 16 things that they say to the Russian president, you can't do these. If might as well have been MC Hammer. You can't touch this. But what they're basically saying is you can touch everything else. No consequences, but these 16, and then not sure what the consequences are going to be, but you can't touch this. Frankly, I think what he should say is you don't touch anything in this country. You touch nothing that belongs to the United States or any one of the 330 million of its people, whether it's their Visa account or whether it is what they ordered online at Domino's Pizza. Don't touch any of it. And if you do, we're going to shut you down. That's what you tell him. You don't tell him, now we got a list here, we worked on it, it's 16 things here that you can't do. No, you don't give the Russians any slack. I was stunned by it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for Real News Channel letting us know about that one. People are leaving New York in droves, according to Phoenix Rain 23. What's going to happen when all that's left, Governor, is people with blue hair holding their hands out?
Well, they've already left. Have you ever been to Florida? You want to see blue hair? Go to, no, that's terrible.
Governor.
I'll get some nasty. Look, I lived in Florida 10 years.
You have a right then, I guess, maybe a little.
No, but so many of the people who are retired from New York, they have already gone to Florida. I've said about South Florida, it is New York with sand, because honestly, everybody there is from New York, from Connecticut, from New Jersey or somewhere, and they've left because the taxes are too high, the crime is too high, the lifestyle, the complications of it, it's just too cumbersome. And so they've left for the sunshine, and you can't blame them. No income tax in Florida. You don't have that kind of just street thuggery and crime. Right. And the weather's great. So, yeah, I totally get why they've done it. The tragedy is New York is chasing business out of their state. It used to be that it was the center of the financial universe. But more and more companies, and particularly as things go online, realize they don't have to be on Wall Street or on a particular street in order for them to do business. They can do business all over the world from anywhere. And why would you domicile a business in New York when you can do it somewhere where they don't hate you? And they hate business in New York. I'd get the heck out of there as quick as I could if I had a business to get out of there.
So another super chat, moving up, John D. Thank you so much. He says, I love your daily emails, Mike.
Good.
So that's good. And of course, we'd love for you to subscribe here to keep in touch. And we've had a lot of folks participating with us today. We've got less than 2 minutes. I want to make sure we get this one in. Biden and Harris haven't visited the border yet, and Trump is before them. John Cakes wrote that.
Well, it's bizarre. I don't understand how you can say I'm in charge of the border as Joe Biden is as president. He assigns that duty to Vice President Kamala Harris, and she doesn't go either. She goes to Guatemala, she goes to Mexico, and she cackles and chuckles with Lester Holt that she hadn't been to Europe either. You can see it. Here it is right here.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
It's unbelievable. She cackles. That cackle just kills me. But, I think the closest that she has to going to the border is going to Taco Bell, because she heard their commercial slogan was run for the border. So she thought that going and getting a Tostito there was somehow equivalent to inspecting the border and the security of the southern U.S. This is really, really getting a little bit on the old side. So let me tell everybody how grateful we are that you have joined us for this live chat. We've been having some fun with these on Friday. Be sure to leave your questions in the comments section. You can also email it to us at my2cents@tbn.tv. Now, remember, you can subscribe, which we hope you will, to our YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so we can let you know when we're going to have another one of these. Be sure and watch the show tomorrow night and Sunday night. Thank you. And on behalf of Pam Case and me, sitting here in our lovely theater in Hendersonville, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, where we do our television show, we thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great weekend. Till tomorrow night on the show, Goodbye. God bless.